Hello, welcome to this video. We're going to look at the quadratic formula, okay? Now the quadratic formula is used when we want to solve a quadratic equation. That's just an equation with an x squared, okay? And when we don't want to use either factorization or completing the square, all right? So let's take a look at a general quadratic equation first, because that's going to help us understand how it works. So ax squared plus bx plus c, okay? Now it's general because rather than numbers, I've used a, b, and c. So it could really represent any quadratic equation. It just depends what I put in as a, b, and c. Now the quadratic formula is this, right? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Now you do need to remember this formula, okay, for your exam. But the more you practice with it, the easier it will be to remember. So I think in this video we'll just do 3 examples showing different kind of ways you might see this formula come up, and you'll remember it. So remembering the general quadratic equation, which is this one here, okay, what are our a, b, and c going to be for this quadratic equation? X squared plus 9x plus 14 equals 0. Well, a is going to be 1, our b is going to be 9, and our c is going to be 14. Okay, so 1, positive 9, and 14. Now to find the values of x, okay, that make this equation equal 0, so to solve it, all we're going to do is substitute these values of a, b, and c into the quadratic equation. So x is equal to negative b, let's do bit by bit, negative b, well b is 9, so negative b is negative 9, plus or minus the square root of b squared, well 9 squared is 81, subtract, now it's always good to put this 4ac in brackets because it just helps make it easier when we're dealing with negative numbers. So subtract 4 times a, well a is 1, times c, which is 14. Okay, and then that's all divided by 2a, well 2 times 1 is 2, so all divided by 2. Now I'm going to simplify what's in the square root, okay, so let's keep going. So x is going to equal negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 81, subtract, well 4 times 1 times 14 gives me 56, so subtract 56, all divided by 2. Let's keep going. So x is equal to negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 81, subtract 56, well that just gives me 25, and that's all divided by 2. So let's keep going, we're nearly there now. So x is equal to negative 9 plus or minus, well the square root of 25, that's plus or minus 5, that's why we have this plus or minus, all divided by 2. So you'll notice, right, because we've got this plus or minus, that means we're going to have 2 outcomes, 2 possible answers, which is true because all quadratic equations will have 2 answers, okay? So we could have, let's scroll down a bit, we could have x equals negative 9 plus 5 divided by 2, or we could have x equals negative 9 subtract 5 divided by 2. So if we use the first one, we get x equals, well, negative 9 plus 5 gives me negative 4, and if I divide negative 4 by 2, I get negative 2, okay? And then over this side, we get x equals, well, negative 9 subtract 5 gives me negative 14, dividing that by 2 gives me negative 7. So you can see here are our 2 solutions. Let's take a look at another example, okay? This one's slightly different. And in fact, I'll grab the quadratic formula again and bring it down just so we've got something to refer to. So, whoops, I forgot the b, negative b. There we go. So, here, always start by writing your a, b, and c. So, what is the a in this? Well, it's 1, isn't it? So, a equals 1, b equals, well, let's take a look. What is b? It's negative 3, okay? It's not positive 3, it's negative. And c equals, let's look again, negative 18. That's an easy mistake to make, okay? Make sure we're remembering our negative signs in this. So let's just put it all into the formula. So we've got negative b, well, so x is going to equal negative b, which is negative 3. So 2 negatives minusing a negative becomes a positive, okay? That's something you need to watch out for. So this is actually going to turn into positive 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared, well, negative 3 all squared, okay? That's going to be just positive 9, because we're doing negative 3 times negative 3. Subtract 4 times a, okay, and then times the c, which is negative 18. And you're about to see in a second why those brackets are important. And that's all divided by 2a, which is 2. So x is going to be equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of 9. Subtract, well, 4 times negative 18, that's negative 72, okay? And you'll notice, right, I've put these brackets in to make it clear that this becomes a negative, subtract a negative, so that's actually going to turn into x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 72, okay? So it's going to turn into a plus. So then we can simplify the surd, the square root. So we get 3 plus or minus the square root of, well, 9 plus 72, that's going to equal 81, and that's all divided by 2. And then we're going to get, let me keep scrolling, x equals 3 plus or minus, well, the square root of 81 is 9 divided by 2. And here, hopefully you can see where our two answers are coming from. We've got x equals 3 plus 9 divided by 2, or we get x equals 3 subtract 9 divided by 2, okay? So there are two outcomes. So if we do 3 plus 9 divided by 2, that gives us 6. Or if we do 3 subtract 9 divided by 2, we get negative 3. And there are our two values of x. And you should always get two values of x, okay, if it's a quadratic equation. Now let's look at the final example. Again, same thing. Write down our values of a, b, and c. So a is equal to 2, b is equal to negative 11, c is equal to 15. So let me highlight so you can see where I got those from. Okay, and also let me bring down the quadratic formula again. See, my writing's getting bigger as this is going on. So let's just substitute it in. So x equals negative b. Well, b is negative 11, so we're getting negative negative, so that becomes positive 11. Okay, plus or minus the square root of b squared. Okay, well, negative 11 squared is 121. Subtract 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 15. And that's all divided by 2a. And a this time is not 1, it's 2. So it's 2 times 2, which is 4. So x is equal to 11 plus or minus the square root of 121. Subtract, well, we're going to do 4 times 2 times 15, which gives us 120. And that's all divided by 4. So x is equal to 11 plus or minus the square root of 121, subtract 120, just leaves us with 1, divided by 4. So we get x is equal to 11 plus or minus square root of 1 is 1, so 1 divided by 4. And so our two answers are going to be x equals 11 plus 1 divided by 4, or x equals 11 subtract 1 divided by 4. Okay, so if we do 11 plus 1 divided by 4, then we get 11 plus 1, which gives us 12 divided by 4, leaves us with 3. Or we can do 11 subtract 1, which leaves us with 10 divided by 4, gives us 5 over 2, which is equal to 2.5. So that should be everything you need to know for the quadratic formula. Hopefully that made sense. Go to my YouTube channel for more maths tutorials, or go over to my TikTok, which is on my YouTube page and the description, to see more worked exam questions. Thanks for watching.